Hey everyone, this is John Feneck with the Feneck Commodities Report, and with me today is Don Durrett, my YouTube partner and founder of goldstockdata.com. Welcome, Don.
Yeah, John, ready to do another one.
That's right, and we're going to pivot into copper today in just a few minutes. We're going to have Claudia Tornquist here, CEO of Kodiak Copper, which is KDKCF in the States. It's a stock that I own a little bit of and have been tracking for quite some time. I'm interested to hear what her take is on the copper junior market. A lot of the larger cap names have been doing quite well. Copper obviously popped to an all-time high this year, so it'll be cool to hear from a copper company. What do you think?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Get a little new take.
Yeah. So before we do that, let's spend about 5 minutes just recapping what's happened since we last talked. I mean, we've talked this week a couple of times, but this price action in GDX has been outstanding. We had another really strong close today. It closed up another 60 basis points in the last just 20 minutes of trading. And we have some earnings coming from some big boys. We've got Pan American PAAS aftermarket. We have Core CDE, which is one of our top holdings, which absorbed Silvercrest, SILV. Looking at their earnings, Don, if you look at the chart back in May when they came out with earnings, CDE, that stock exploded on earnings, which it hasn't looked back. So that was in the fives, and now we're in the nines. So it'll be interesting to see if Mitch and his team can deliver there. But as the next couple of days unfold into next week, we're going to be getting Wheaton tomorrow, a bunch of big names. So a lot of these are major holdings within GDX and GDXJ.
It really feels like somebody rang a bell. We are seeing price action that we haven't seen since summer of 2020. So today gold was down, spot was down. Well, yeah, down $10 today. And the HUI was up 8 points to 470. We haven't seen that kind of price action since 2020. So it's really interesting. 3 days in a row, it's Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday this week. We've seen the HUI just go up, up, up. Three significant green candles in a row. And gold isn't really ripping. I mean, gold's at 33.68 spot. That's kind of where it's been. I mean, it's been in this range. It's been above 3,400. I actually think it touched 35 intraday. And so, I mean, gold really isn't really the reason why these the miners are doing so well. It's the fact that we have high margins, and these margins, it's taken time. We've had these high margins now for quite a while, and this is like the third quarter where they've had good margins, and finally, Wall Street, investors are basically getting to the point where they're like, we can't ignore these anymore. So money's coming in. Basically, what we're seeing momentum. And like you said, GDX up. GDXJ was up 2.3% today, which is a pretty big move. 2.3 when gold's down $10. So like I said, it feels like somebody's ringing a bell here. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of follow through we get over the next, say, 4 to 8 weeks to see if this is the beginning of the bull market. So 470 on the HUI is really, really close to a breakout. Some people would say it's already broken out here. I still think the jury's out. I kind of want to see it go through 500 like butter and just rip up to 525 before I really feel like we're in a bull market in the miners. But it's really knocking on the door here. Well, we saw silver try to get through $40 and it couldn't. Now it's at 37.77, basically flat today. Silver's been above 35 for over a month now. So I think silver has to get above 40 for this bull market in the miners to begin. I'm not super, you can hear it in my voice, I think. I'm not super excited yet, but I feel like we're on the precipice. But I've been on the precipice many times before, and you get a pullback and you have to wait. So I don't think we're off to the races here, but I think we're close.
Yeah, I mean, some of the silver names, I will point out that silver did briefly flirt with 440 on that Wednesday when Trump had made the deal with Japan, right? And it literally backed right off, and it hasn't recovered to test the 39 to 40 range again since then. But I think it will. It's just it's just a matter of time. We're seeing dips getting bought in silver now, as well as gold, as you know. So the miners in silver, which I would argue are some of the more rabid investors. Again today, like the small producers that have high costs, like Guanajuato, GSVRF, we talked about that at 20 cents last week. We talked about it Monday at 21 and a half. Today it's at 23 and a half. You know, this is really nice price action in just a few calendar days, right? I mean, like this is, they came out with very positive news today about restarting or getting permits for an old mine that was a producer many, many years ago. So that's additive into the story, in my view. Silver X, you and I talked about just yesterday at 22. It's at 24 now. It was up 10% today at one point. I don't know where it finished, AGXPF. And then Aftermath, AAGFF was the other one we talked about in the 50s last week. It's at 63, 64 today. So things are really moving, you know, and you have to buy dips. That's the message, right? You can't just sit there and watch these things happen because the stocks are starting to crank. And if you have silver names that are leaders like Core, CDE, Pan American, PAAS tonight, both have earnings. If they come out with good earnings, I think it's going to be a FOMO move here, right back to test that 39 to 40 range in silver eventually. And the miners are going to have their own price action, as you pointed out, right? They're not just relying on the silver or gold price anymore. They're starting to outperform the metals, which is very bullish.
Right. Just to add to some of the things you said there. I mean, yeah, I mean, some of these miners are trending up a little bit, but I'm in this for the big alpha. I want to see these stocks go up 100% in a month. So yeah, they're starting to trend a little bit. I mean, if they go up 10%, 20%, I mean, even 30%. I mean, those are kind of nice little moves, but they're, as far as I'm concerned, they're kind of little moves. I mean, you got Hecla at $6.11. As far as I'm concerned, it should be at least $8.50. The market, most of these stocks are trading about, I think, about 50% below where they should be. That would be $9 for Hecla. Most of them are. I think we're gonna see, like all the silver miners, I think they're gonna double, you know, fairly quickly when this thing finally starts to go. And so it's nice to see the trending. It absolutely is nice to see the trending, but I literally want to see these stocks double. That's like the beginning of a bull run. We've been here, John. We've seen these things, what these things can do. I mean, these stocks can really, really rip. They have a ton of leverage. Most of them are, like I said, they're undervalued like 50%. When this thing starts to go, when it really starts to run, we're going to see some really nice price action. In other words, you're not late to the game. I don't think there's a overvalued silver mine out there. I mean, you could say Highlander or Silver Mountain, but those aren't producers. I don't think there's a pricey silver producer out there right now. They're all unbelievably cheap, in my opinion. And so the price action has started, but you're not late. But the other thing I want to say is that, yeah, you're always going to see corrections. Absolutely. In gold, silver. I did tweeted this out. I asked Grok, I said, Grok, isn't it true between the last bull market and the 2000s that every year you had a significant correction in gold, silver miners? And, you know, Grok came back and said, absolutely, that's the case. So when you get a bull market, you're always going to get corrections, always. So it's almost impossible to buy a stock and not expect it to go red. because if you buy a stock, the chances are in the next 12 months, it's going to go, we're going to see a correction of 10 to 20%. So it's really difficult in this space to buy stocks and buy bottoms. It's hard. And that's what people are, and people are jumping in here thinking, oh, I'm buying a bottom. It's a bull market. I'm just going to go up. That's not how this sector works. And so it's really difficult to buy bottoms. The only time that you can really buy bottoms is during a correction. We're not in a correction, so it's really hard to buy a bottom. Even the next correction that's coming, the chances are it goes down 20% and you jump in and you think you caught a bottom. You probably didn't. That's how difficult it is to catch bottoms. So I just want to bring that up. So yeah, I'm expecting some incredible moves upward, but I'm also expecting a lot of volatility.
Thanks for the analysis. With that, why don't we leave it there, Don, and introduce our guest today, who's Claudia Tornquist, who is CEO of Kodiak Copper. The ticker in the U.S. is KDKCF. Claudia, welcome to the show.
Hello, Don. Hello, John. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Welcome, Claudia.
Not a problem. Welcome. So why don't you give us a 10-minute overview or so of Kodiak, and then we'll ask some questions.
Excellent. Let me share a couple of slides and dive right into it. So Kodiak is a copper exploration company focused on the MPD project in southern British Columbia. And we had already an important milestone this year, and so a nice bump in our share price, and have another important catalyst coming up. So exciting times ahead for our shareholders. Let me start with a quick elevator pitch why Kodiak presents a good investment opportunity. We are in copper, critical material with a supply crunch looming, and our project also has some good gold values on the side, and that of course is also very attractive at this time. Kodiak's management has a very solid track record, very much focused on shareholder value, and we've done it before and created multi-bagger returns for shareholders. We are focused on a project in British Columbia, a safe jurisdiction where mines are getting permitted and built. And importantly, we are in an existing mining district with all the infrastructure in place and very low cost profile. Our project, MPD, is a copper-gold porphyry and has the potential to become a major mine. And I'll talk more about this in this presentation. Our capital structure is tight. We have some solid, credible, large shareholders, and importantly, are fully financed for this year's exploration project. And last but not least, market timing. As you already spoke about, the markets are very positive. Commodity prices are strong, and Kodiak has an important catalyst coming up, lots of news flow coming up, so a very good time to look at our company. Let me speak a little bit more about management. The founder and chairman of Kodiak is Chris Taylor, whom probably many of you know of our sister company, Great Bear, which he also founded, one of the biggest successes, discovery successes, and $2 billion of returns to shareholders. Chris is a geologist, very creative, out-of-the-box thinking geologist, and that out-of-the-box thinking was a very important part of Great Bear's success, and similarly is a very important part of Kodiak's success. So Chris very much leads the technical geological side of Kodiak's work. Myself, I've been in resources for over 20 years, and my background was for almost 10 of those years with a large company, Rio Tinto, doing things like M&A, business development, business evaluation. So very much the business capital markets side of things. So what Chris and I bring to the company is very complementary, our skill sets and experience. Last but not least, John Robbins is also an important part of the team, shareholder and advisor. And John is the principal and founder of the Discovery Group, of which Kodiak is part. Discovery Group, many of you will know, has been around for many, many years, is a loose alliance of companies. We all work out of the same office, and it's very much a strong support network with great expertise, great contacts, great industry relationships. And importantly, many of Kodiak's investors really like the Discovery Group because it gives them confidence. The Discovery Group has been around for many years, has lots of successes to its name, and that just gives people confidence that the companies in the group, such as Kodiak, are solid companies, well run, with projects that have real potential. Let me speak a little bit more about Kodiak's project, MPD. This map shows where we are located. Southern British Columbia, in an existing mining district between two large copper mines. We have to our north Highland Valley, that's Teck's large copper mine, 30 or so kilometers away, and then to our south, Copper Mountain, another large copper mine owned by Hudbay. That's very similar in geology to MPD. So a real mining and exploration district has been a mining region for many, many years. And that, of course, is a major advantage to Kodiak because we have all the infrastructure we need. And it makes our exploration dollars go a long way. It's very low cost exploration. And that advantage will be even more of an advantage as the project moves down the development and production towards production. The costs and risk of building and running a mine in an existing mining district is a lot lower than doing so in a remote location where many other projects are located. Kodiak acquired MPD in the original MPD project in 2018, and we have since consolidated the district. You can see on this map the dark red area in the middle. That used to be the first parcel of land that we acquired. We added the rest over the last 6 years and consolidated a large property of 344 square kilometers. And importantly, several of these claim packages had significant historic exploration, from which, of course, we greatly benefit. You can see on this map all the black dots. That's all drill holes from previous explorers. Many of them had good results, but nobody really had critical mass. And by putting together all these individual projects, Kodiak has generated the critical mass to really make this project work. So the consolidation really is the first step to our success. So over the 6 years where we put the property together, we also drilled and explored every year, big programs. And this map now shows where that got us. At this time, we have 7 large mineralized zones, which you see here, the yellow dots on the map. And on these 7 zones, we are coming out with a maiden resource in 2025. What's important to highlight is that all of these 7 zones are still wide open to expansion over and above what will be included in our main resource. And importantly, also, in addition to those 7 resource zones, there are at current count 20 more targets, some of them already drill proven gold and copper mineralization. So lots more upside potential for further discoveries over and above the Maiden Resource. Our resource will be delivered or is being delivered in two parts. We had the first portion of our resource out in June. That's for 4 of the 7 mineralized zones. And you can see on this slide what we came out with. Already for these first 4 zones, we have a substantial resource that really shows the growth potential and the scale potential of the project. The numbers, resource numbers are an indicated resource of 56 million tons of 0.42% copper equivalent. And then on top of that, 240 million tons of 0.33% copper equivalent. That compares very well with other projects and mines in British Columbia and is already a sizable resource in total. If you look between both indicated and inferred, we have currently approximately 1.7 billion pounds of copper in the ground and 1.2 million ounces of gold. All of that open pit. And important to keep in mind that that is only the first part of the resource. There are 3 more mineralized zones that will add to the Maiden Resource. Those 3 zones, called West, Edit, and South, we are currently drilling. There was some more confirmation infill drilling required, and then these zones will also be modeled and included in the full Maiden Resource, which we expect to have in the 4th quarter of this year. And the 3 zones that will be added, they will make a significant addition to what we currently have, and they will also be important. If you followed our exploration over the last years, you might remember that particularly at the west and added zones, we had some really nice high-grade mineralization right from surface, and that is, of course, an important aspect of any mineral resource, and it highlights the potential for potential future starter pits, economics, quick payback, etc. So watch out for the second part of our resource estimate later this year. This shows just a quick summary of this year's milestones. You can see the first 2 quarters were busy, many important milestones from exploration results, metallurgy, financing, and a drill program that's currently going on. And then the most important catalyst here in orange was the first part of our resource. And then lots to look forward to in the second half of the year. The next milestone is our technical report, which is coming out in August. Then we'll also have all our exploration results throughout the 3rd quarter. And then in the 4th quarter, our next important milestone, which will be the resource estimate for the remaining 3 zones, which should be an important catalyst, just as the first part of the resource was. Here you see our capital structure and share price. What I'd like to highlight is we are a tightly held company, only 85 million shares outstanding, even though we've raised $48 million over the last 6 years and invested them into our exploration program, still tightly held. We have currently a market cap of 52 million. We are fully financed for all our exploration work this year, with still 4 million in the kitty. And we have one analyst, independent analyst covering us, that's Cormac. And on the right side here, you see our shareholders, shareholder structure. We have two large shareholders, Conwave, very well-established resources fund, and Tech Resources. And at the bottom here, you see our share price. The bump I referred to before was here in June when we announced our metallurgy and then the initial resource. We saw a nice uplift in our share price from the around 40-cent mark to now in the 60s. So really nice increase. And I would argue that there is lots more to come. And this slide illustrates what I mean with that. You can see Kodiak here with our current market cap compared to some of our peers who are further down the road, like Faraday Copper, North Isle, or GT Gold. All of these companies have copper porphyry projects in North America, have already Maiden Resources or resource estimates and are already in the PEA stage. And as you can see, their market capitalization is much higher than where we are currently. With our first part of the Maiden Resource, we've already made the first step to closing this valuation gap. And with all of our news flow and the remaining Maiden Resource estimate for the remaining zones coming up soon, I think we have all the pieces in place, and I'm very confident that we can continue closing this valuation gap and generate exceptional returns for our shareholders going forward. That brings me to the end of my presentation. And Jonathan, over to you. Happy to discuss some more.
Great. Thanks, Claudia. I think that's an interesting slide right there. I own Faraday, and to suggest that they're 5 times better than you really isn't accurate, in my opinion. And so there is a catch-up move, as you see, as you noted on the chart. Can you go back to that slide 11? I think it was showing the chart, please. 12. There you go. It was 12. So I guess the question I get from a lot of clients, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it is a question that I think we need to address. If you look there from August of 24 to when you put out the news in 2025, the stock kind of trended. And yet copper was all over the place, right? So why do you think that the copper price, like when copper moves up above that $5 a pound or makes an all-time high like this year, that we're not getting more love in the copper juniors? Because some of the copper senior stocks do quite well.
Well, I would say that that's often what you see when sort of a bull market picks up or commodity prices start rallying. You see the larger companies, the more established companies, producers or maybe developers benefit first. And then after a bit of a lag, then the juniors also catching momentum. And I think that's part of what we're seeing now. For Kodiak specifically, I believe what has held back our share price over the last year or two or so was certainly that for investors, it was very hard to see what we actually had, because we've now drilled for 6 years, had lots of results over the span of 6 years. But what it all means, how much it is to put it all together, whether it's an economic quantity, whether the grades measure up to competitors, that was very hard for investors to see. And that's really what has held back our share price. And that's why I said in my presentation, the resource is such an important milestone and catalyst for Kodiak, because it really brings together the work of 6 years of drilling and puts a number on it. How much mineralization do we have and what grade? And that's really what our investors have been waiting on. And that's also why I believe we saw quite a jump in our share price when we came out with the first part of the resource. And that's also why I'm saying I'm confident that the second part of the resource will also be an important catalyst and well received by the market.
Okay, that's reasonable. So you're drilling now, and you said that the resource is coming in Q4. Can you give us any more specifics around that? Obviously, December is a very difficult month. If it were to come out then, the argument is that it might get overlooked. I mean, we have a lot of conferences in our sector, of course, in October and November. Do you think it might be out in October and November? Do you have any guidance there?
Well, we'll certainly aim to come out well before the sort of everything slows down towards the end of the year. Ideally in November is what I'd be shooting for. And yeah, so that's currently, I would say, our plan. And it's not entirely in our control because obviously there are lab returns and lab times playing into that. But I can certainly say we're progressing well with our drilling. And yeah, I'm confident that we will achieve that time frame.
Great. Okay. Hey, Don, in the interest of time, I'll turn it over to you because I know you have a few questions.
Yeah, thank you. So, Claudia, thanks for being on. This has been a really good story. So, as far as your resource, the current resource, did I read it correctly that you have 1.5 billion pounds of copper equivalent? Is that right?
If you add the inferred and the indicated, which of course, according to the rules, you shouldn't, but between the two, currently it adds up to 1.7 billion pounds of copper and 1.2 million ounces of gold in round numbers.
Right. So the thing that's stunning is your valuation. So at that amount of copper, I would think you would probably mine 1 million pounds a year. Is that off base? Do you think a project of this size? I mean, even if you don't find any more, would you mine about 1 million pounds a year, or is that too much?
Well, all those the evaluations, like how much to mine, etc., that's all still in the future as we start working on a PEA. What we can say now for sure is the amount of mineralization we have and the grades, they compare well to other mines in the area. For example, the neighboring Copper Mountain mine, which is very similar in terms of geology to what we see at MPD. And certainly the scale that you can see already now is that of a major mine with decades of production and comparable to other BC mines, which are very sizable and very profitable copper and gold mines.
My question wasn't about you specifically. I meant in general for a typical copper company. Can a copper miner, I mean, you have enough resources. I'm just thinking in terms of feasibility. Is it feasible for any copper company to mine 1 million pounds of copper a year?
Well, a large company, copper producer certainly, or mine, would certainly produce those sorts of ballparks. And that's our aspiration for MPD as we move down the path towards development and economic expansion.
I'm just trying to get. I don't analyze copper miners, so I don't have a real good understanding. So I'm just trying to get a feel for free cash flow in the future if I project out copper. So if you mined 1 million pounds a year and you made $1 in free cash flow, you'd have $1 billion in free cash flow a year. Mm-hmm. So if we put even a small multiple of 10, you'd have the company that once this project goes in production could have a valuation of $10 billion. Is that off base?
Well, copper mines compared to, for example, gold mines, are very different animals. Like copper porphyry mines in particular are very large mines. That's mines that generate billions of dollars a year and produce for decades. So the sorts of numbers you just put out, that's certainly realistic numbers for a large copper mine.
Right. So you guys have really strong insiders. So I would think that you probably, looking at upside potential. You mentioned earlier, you said that your group has basically had success in the past and has had baggers, right? What you put in. So this company looks like it has a lot of upside potential currently, but it's adding more copper. So if I was a copper investor, I would definitely like this project quite a bit. The grade looks good. Is the recovery rate for the CUEQ, is it going to be above 80%?
I didn't touch much on the metallurgy. We had metallurgy results this year as well, and those showed good recoveries comparable to other mines in North America, with almost 90% rougher recoveries for copper and 74% for gold, and nice saleable concentrates with no deleterious elements. So yeah, we ticked a box and really de-risked the project with this initial metallurgical work as well.
Are there any NSRs on the property?
The project has some NSR on parts of the property. That's a function of the land package being consolidated from many smaller ones. So there are certain areas that have NSR. I would say on average, the royalty load is below average. It's not a very high royalty burden on the property, but there are some royalties.
Okay. And my final question is, what are the plans for your company, say, for the next 3 years? What do you guys expect to happen for the next 3 years of your company?
Well, look, the first big step and milestone is to complete the Maiden Resource, and that's what we have planned for the fourth quarter. So that's a big, important milestone. Then from there, there are certainly more drilling that we can do to make the resource much bigger than what it is now. We believe it has the potential to grow substantially, those 7 zones, with more drilling. So that's certainly one avenue of work that we can embark on. Plus also, there are, as I mentioned before, at the moment, 20 additional targets, so the potential for further discoveries. So more drilling is certainly on the cards. And then in parallel, we will certainly consider going down the route of economic evaluation and commencing a PEA at the right time. That could be as early as next year. We'll announce more detailed plans later in the year when we have the full resource.
I said that was my last question, but I have a quick follow-up. Have you started permitting of the environmental impact study, or are you planning on doing that?
We have started all the environmental work that will go into future permitting right when we started our first exploration program. So all of those initial building blocks are in place. And yeah, we are permitted for what we need at this stage. And that's all been a very smooth process. And British Columbia, like many other regions in North America, the politicians and regulators are really looking into how to permit more efficiently, how to accelerate domestic critical mineral projects. So it's certainly a very positive climate for mineral exploration, particularly in critical minerals at this time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks, Claudia, for coming on. We really appreciate it. And Again, the symbols are at the bottom of all your slides. I see there KDK in Canada, KDKCF in the States. We'll make sure those are in the show notes as well. I started my position right here in the low 40s a couple of years ago. The stock just has a lot of upside potential here because you've really proven a lot out since that initial entry point. And it looks like from your news flow that Q4 is going to be pretty exciting for you. And the timing couldn't be much better, in my opinion, given that copper has been really breaking out this year and quite volatile. But here at 440 a pound, clearly a lot lower than it was just a few weeks ago. So there's some real good value here. So Claudia, if you don't mind, we're going to just summarize the opportunity for our investors, and we'll catch you somewhere down the road at one of these conferences.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you.
Of course. So Don, I know you don't have a position yet in Kodiak, but this is one that caught my eye a few years ago because they had a discovery hole. If you look at the 5-year chart, the stock absolutely exploded. I don't have it in front of me, but I know it got over $2 a share US, and now we're trading at 44 cents as we record this. So a lot of value here, and I'm getting more interested in copper juniors for the very reason that I pointed out, that they don't seem to be moving. Like a lot of the gold juniors are starting to catch fire now that gold is finally, that gold is starting to move, right? There's more attention there. But copper juniors are still tremendous value.
Yeah, 1.5 billion pounds for $52 million, and it's growing in size. Sounds pretty cheap to me. If I was a copper investor, I'd probably own it. Location is great too. The location is great.
Sorry, the location. Yes, I mean if you look at that map, it's New Afton, Copper Mountain, a lot of big players in that part of BC.
Yeah. Yep.
So, well, hey, we'll leave it there. But you and I will be back next week, and appreciate your insight as always, Don.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a good week.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining us. Take care.